everyone, my name is Ryan and I am a Bible nerd. Welcome back to my video and podcast series on my trip to the Holy Land, to Israel and Jerusalem. This is part 5 of the series. So if you haven't had a chance to watch the other ones, I'd love to get your feedback on those. But today's video, we are going to focus in on some of the highlights in the Old City, including the Western Wall. We're going to walk around some of the streets and show you some of the highlights there. And then we're also going to go to the City of David, which is just south of the Temple Mount. So I hope you enjoy the video. Please like, subscribe, comment, and let's get started with the Western Wall.
How about there, the Western Wall? We came down through Jaffa Gate, going through the Old City. And now,
I thought you were behind me.
No, because I didn't see what's in front of
wow, look at that. How cool is that?
We made it down to the plaza area here, which is just in the area before the courtyards that are set up before the Western Wall itself. And we were there fairly early in the morning, and tourism is obviously down, so there wasn't quite as many people that were there. But this plaza can fill up like crazy depending on the event. So I wanted to point out a couple things here. You can see that little fountain there. That's to cleanse and be ready to prepare yourself to go down to those areas. Then you can see those white umbrellas. They'll open up when it gets warmer and as needed. And to the left of those is where you'd have the men, and to the right is where the women would be able to go down there and pray or read Torah or go up to the wall. There's traditions where people will write up scrolls or prayers and put them in the wall. And it's such a rich area of Jewish culture that just oozes and flows out of this particular area. Just really enjoyed my time while I was there. And then as the camera will swing back to the right here in a moment, it'll show you the security gates and kind of the drop off area there to be able to get into the plaza. And you can see the white buildings to the right there. And just above kind of the tallest one, you can see a staircase going up. That's where I was walking down, kind of filming from that little upper area. And then you walk your way kind of down in front of those gates, go through security where you get checked and metal detectors and things like that. And then you work your way into this plaza, and then from there you can work your way into the courtyards. And then straight ahead here is where there is a museum, that is where a lot of archaeology is happening, because just behind that building is actually the Arab quarter. And so a lot of what they're doing is underneath it. They're actually digging out areas underneath it right up to the foundation of the wall there, of the Western Wall. In fact, they've gone so far where they've gotten to the north part of the wall. And we were in there getting some tours, which I'll show you here a few clips from that. When we were in there, we were talking to a couple of people that hadn't been there even for a few years and couldn't believe how much more has been opened up. The lighting was amazing in there. The tour guides were really educational. There's different routes you can take that take you to different sections they've discovered. And so I really recommend that if you have a chance to go, you've got to go through those tunnels and get some good tour guides and be able to explore underneath the Arab quarter there, right? The Western Wall Tours is what it's called. There's also a heritage center that I can show you here in just a moment. Another cool thing I found out is they do have a camera that's mounted up there, that they have a live feed 24/7 of this particular area for Jewish people all around the world. And it just is such a cool area. It just has a reverence to it. There's tradition that's there. There's people that are praying and just very reverent in a beautiful way. Just the expression of Judaism I thought was just absolutely beautiful. And we'll show you a couple other clips as we're exploring this particular area. Here we are closer to the actual courtyards right in front of the Western Wall. And again, you can see the men are on the left side, the women are on the right. There's even a little extra area that's underneath the wall, the opening there to the left, where you can go in there and also pray. And they would have different things that were going on in there. And it was fairly calm again this morning. It was not crazy early just yet, but it was fairly early in the day. And it was really just a beautiful place. It was just such a sombering place, and so many people that were praying and just kind of in that reverential state as they walked up and had their thoughts and prayers. They would go to the wall itself here. Next up, I want to show you a cool little video as we're getting ready to go into the tours of the Western Wall. Look like a bar mitzvah or a celebration with some children. They were getting all lined up, and they had these little special little outfits on, little things on their heads, and they were walking down, and there was a couple people in the crowd that were kind of singing a song. was a beautiful little moment. And that's one thing I just loved about this particular area is just religion on full display, just the beauty of the culture, what represented. I mean, it was just such a cool moment to just watch the celebration of these children walking their way down to the Western Wall. And they were holding a little event. They had little chairs down there as well. So I'll show you the slide and a little photo I was able to capture inside the actual courtyard itself. I thought that was so cool to capture that moment, watching the kids line up with their little outfits and their little hats and their dads kind of filming them as they're walking down the slope. And we were able to capture them while they were in the Western Wall courtyard. And they'd be doing little hymns and little chants. They'd answer questions, and the leaders of this little group would throw out these little tubes. I think they were full of like sweets or sugar or something like that, just kind of a way to kind of keep the kids engaged with what they were trying to do. And I just love studying that stuff. Like, why do they wear the hat they wear? Why do they sing the songs that they're singing? And the different expressions of religion that was just all over the place there in Jerusalem. And I really appreciated it and just loved it. I asked, well, okay, what's with the hat or what's with the style of whatever it was? What's the tradition behind it and the differences and the nuances of the expression that they were trying to do? And I just loved it. I thought it was so cool that we were able to capture that moment. Next up, we're going to go into the Western Wall itself, where there is some really cool artifacts and some archaeology that's happening down underneath there. So check out some of these other slides as we work our way through the Western Wall tunnels. Next, we have a great section of the temple wall, the foundation wall here of the Temple Mount. And there is an absolutely massive rock that is part of the Temple Mount that's on display here as you start to go into the tunnel area that's underneath. And so this is left of the Western Wall Plaza. And you can see this big rock. How they got it there, nobody knows. Even with like the pyramids, how they got some of those rocks there in ancient time, who knows? But this thing really is massive, that is part of the base here of the Temple Mount wall. This is still part of the Western Wall. This is just to the left of that plaza and that courtyard. And then down there, we can continue to go as it works its way all the way, and part of the tour goes further and further down that tunnel, all the way to the point where it actually goes to the northern part of the Temple Mount. So it's really a cool tour. And again, I highly recommend that if you're going to be in Jerusalem, you're going to be part of any kind of Western Wall tour, you have to pay and go in there and have a tour guide. It really gives you some incredible insight of this particular area. So I want to show you a couple other highlights of some of the other areas within the Western Wall area. So here's part of the tour that we're on. And this is a section that's been kind of saved and preserved. And many of the Jewish people will go in there, spend a little extra time praying, because this is the section of the wall that would have been closest to the actual temple up on the Temple Mount. There's also a part of this stone that is in here that looks like the state of Israel, like the way the stone is, if you kind of outline it. It's actually pretty remarkable how similar it looks to the map of Israel that just happens to be one of the rocks that is in the wall. It was kind of a cool moment. People would trace their hand on it, or they put their hand on it, take a photo of their hand against the wall. And there's always some people in there and spending a little extra time. There'd be people reading Torah in there. It's not nearly as popular, obviously, as the Western Wall itself, the plaza that's outside there, but that is being a pretty popular spot for people to go in there and spend a little extra time. So I thought it was a beautiful little moment there. Wanted to share that particular part of this tour. So here we are with part of the tour. We can still see some of the archaeology and some of the stuff they were discovering that is just kind of west of the Western Wall. So these are some of the areas they've been able to uncover that just have some history that go way, way back. You can see some of the designs there, maybe a theater or a meeting area, and then just really well done, well lit, and just the platforms and stuff that were there are just amazing to see some of the things they've been able to discover, dig up, and be able to try to preserve and go back to history. And this was all just full of sand, and they've just been just kind of digging it up as they discover more and more. And you can see those really huge columns that are there are literally supporting the ceiling, because above us is a city. It's just crazy to think that above us right now is the Arab quarter of the old city. So as they're doing this, they have to be very careful and very strategic of how they excavate it and make sure they reinforce it and build it back up while keeping it very presentable, beautiful, lit. I mean, all the things they have to do. It's just incredible the work that is done to allow us to enjoy this and to be able to study it. Whether it's from a religious context or just a human history context, I thought it was just such a great place to be, and well worth any money and getting a tour guide and just explaining some of the things in here. They also had some fun little displays with the lights and what some of the corridors were and all that was just really, really cool. So this is the opposite part of where we just were, kind of on this little platform that's really well built, really beautiful, had the glass and just had the really nice floors as you're walking around. So that is the Western Wall that was just buried for centuries in sand that they've been able to uncover. Really is just cool history, archaeology, all that kind of thing, and just so well lit. So this will swing kind of around where you can still see those huge columns holding up the city above us. This is the other angle from that other side where this theater area was, or meeting house, and all kinds of different things they've been able to discover, because this would have been outside of the Temple Mount. So this is where the city and the commerce and all the other things were happening, would have been just kind of right outside. And this is just kind of continuing that tour as we work our way around these platforms. We had a great tour guide for this. She was a little old lady, had been doing it for, I don't know how, 30 years plus or something like that. So had great insight, really was fun. She really explained a lot of things. It was really, really cool having her be our tour guide. Now, this section's relatively new from when we were there. A couple people who were on previous tours said that that wasn't complete last time they were there. You can see on the lower level, people are doing other parts of the different tours that are available. And it was really a very cool section. So as you came out, it was kind of like a little synagogue area. They had this incredibly cool lit floor with this beautiful wood and these beautiful little chairs to sit and study and learn. And it really was a cool part and so well lit. I mean, we're completely underground here, and just the archways that were there, and just the lighting, the floor, the beautiful wood chairs that were there really was really cool. So if you haven't been there yet, this is a relatively new thing that's been opened up for a very, very short time. So here we are up on top of that synagogue area, that really cool lit floor, the beautiful wood. Then you have this display, the menorah that's there. And then back behind it here is where that tour is, with that really big rock I was showing you a few slides ago. And the tour goes off to the left and works its way down the Western Wall from that vantage point. So pretty cool to see the beauty of this particular area and how well lit it was, and its different uses now. Now we've worked our way around the city, and we're going to start seeing a couple different sites as we work our way down to the city of David. And I found a couple things I thought worth highlighting that I wanted to share with you as we're just kind of exploring the streets of the old city in Jerusalem. So check out a couple things we were able to discover on our walk to the city of David. When you're walking around the old city, you'll see all kinds of different little placards that are marking all kinds of different events or different finds that they've done. And one of these was really cool here, as it was showing the difference between kind of a modern road and then the old Roman roads that were built. And it was just such a cool section to just have kind of the clash of different eras and different things within the old city, and how we're walking on ancient Roman roads right through the middle of the old city. So really it's just so cool. There's just life and history all over this place. It just oozes with antiquity, and while it still has modern shops and modern things around it, but it just is such a unique, beautiful place. So we're working our way down to the Cardo. So check out some of the other stuff we were able to discover. So here we have the Cardo. This is a road system that was developed by the Romans. And what makes it pretty cool is they've discovered it, kind of unearthed it here. And you actually see the remnants of the columns here. You see the remnants of the little shops that would be on this little promenade as you're going up the road, what they would call a cardo. And this is what they were able to uncover. From this vantage point, the Western Wall, the Temple Mount would have been to the right of this vantage point. So all these shops would have been lined with wares and things like that. And as people would travel into Jerusalem, this would be kind of their market street. So this is the outside portion that's been uncovered, and straight ahead is other portions that they've been able to partly restore. They have some pretty cool artwork. So take a look at this next slide as we go kind of underneath the building that's here and to the other side where the Cardo continues. And then through that is a wonderful little art shop and other shops that are currently active. And we met a really cool guy down there that we're going to talk about here in a slide. So let's jump down through the tunnel there and go to the next half of the Cardo. So here we pass through that little tunnel. There's a little information that was in there in between these two sections. So here we are in this section of the Cardo, and you can see the kids kind of playing, which was really cool. They put some artwork on the wall, which I'll show you here in a second, that was really cool, that just kind of showed the different wares. I could just imagine the smells and the shops and the things you could buy and the spices and the textiles and the food and just all the things that were just in these little shops going up and down this main street, if you will, like downtown main street kind of thing, even in the ancient times. So it's just kind of a cool thing to reminisce and see the old Roman floor that would have been still there and just the artwork that's on the wall. Then at the end of the tunnel here, there's a really cool piece of art that I want to showcase here in the next slide. So here's that really big painting at the end of this section of the Cardo that is just so cool. You've got kind of a modern kid in this painting, got his backpack, his water bottle, his hat, and he's being handed a fruit, looks like maybe a pomegranate, from an ancient girl. And this was such a beautiful painting at the end of the street. It was very colorful, very bright, almost had a 3D feel to it with the shadowing that the artist used, and it just kind of shows you what it might have looked like down this little road of commerce, the wares that they would have sold and the horses that are there and just the Roman street that was there. Just was really, really cool. So bright, well painted, almost had a 3D feel to it with just, again, the way the colors, the shadows, the way the artist rendered this particular thing. And it was massive. It was right at the end of the road here, and it was really tall. And I spent a lot of time just kind of looking at all the details the artist did, from the chicken and the dog running and the kids and the pots and pans and just all this stuff that was on this was well worth spending some time looking at it. So wanted to showcase that here as part of the video. I hope you've enjoyed the video so far. If you've seen these places, like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you think. And if you have any memories of these particular places, I'd love to hear from you. Next up, we're going to work our way to the City of David, which is south of the Temple Mount. And we're going to work our way kind of down through the exhibits and some of the tunnels that are there, all the way down to the pool at the bottom. And then we're going to work our way back up through some different tunnels that kind of work their way back to the north. So we're going to kind of work south. It's all downhill and then back north as we ascend back to the top of the City of David and back up to the Temple Mount. So I hope you enjoy this section as we explore the City of David. Here we are working our way south of the Temple Mount, and this is where the City of David was. And this is kind of an active archaeology site here. You can see that still got some things that were covered as they were working in the sun. And you can see the Alaska Mosque is up there on the Temple Mount. The Western Wall would have been just to the left of this orientation from that spot. And you can still see a little bit of Jerusalem in the background there on the left side of the camera. But this was kind of a really cool little dig site that they were working on that leads into the City of David, which they have a bunch of stuff that was discovered there that they're currently working on. But I just thought this was kind of a cool vantage point here to see the southern part of the wall. And you can see how high it was from this particular point, and how the Temple Mount must have been just an incredibly grand point of view from anywhere in Jerusalem and the surrounding area, and just how built up it had to be, especially on the southern portion, because it was on a slope, it was on a hill. So the north portion is not very tall. It's not necessarily flat. There's still a wall around it, but not nearly as tall as this side, because to make that Temple Mount flat, they had to build up the south side like crazy. So it just kind of shows you the southern part of the Temple Mount. The Western Wall is just over that portion there to the left. and then the city of David is just kind of left and behind me from this camera angle. So let's go ahead and watch and look at a few things that we're able to discover and walk through in the tunnels and some of the things that are happening in the city of David. So we worked our way through the visitor center that is there, and now we're working our way kind of down this really beautiful staircase that leads you down. So we kind of start from the top, which is higher, and as you work your way south through the city of David, you're working your way down all the way to this pool that was down at the bottom. Whereas people traveled to Jerusalem, they could bathe and ceremonial wash, then work their way through the city of David up to the Temple Mount. But I just thought this was a beautiful little staircase as we're working our way down to the tunnels. The fragrances that were there were just amazing. There was all kinds of flowers throughout this entire complex, especially by the visitor center itself. So as I wanted to just kind of showcase this section of the city of David as we actually head into the tunnels, which is all kinds of cool stuff down there. So check out this next slide. So here we are in some of the tunnels that are leading down through the city of David. And there are some things in here that are just really old. They even predate the Israelite period all the way back to the Canaanite period. But this just gives you kind of an idea what to expect if you're going to go down through these tunnels. They were well lit. They're pretty cool going down. This section was definitely the steepest one. But it's just cool seeing the lighting that was in there and just how steep this first part is and just how it works its way south down through the city of David. So I got a couple other shots as it opens up to other areas that they've been excavating and just other discoveries that they found. Here we've worked our way down through the tunnels. You can still see the stairs and some of the railing. As you come around the corner here, you see this really well lit area of some of the foundation stone. There was even maybe a tower that was here. There was a spring that was near here, but this is kind of part of this entire city of David that would have been south of the Temple Mount. It was really, really well lit. The walls were really well done. The platforms are very similar to what you saw at the Western Wall. So they really do take a lot of time and effort to make this very beautiful, presentable, almost museum quality lighting and other things that were there. And then just behind me is also a theater area where they can do some demonstrations and some productions that are there. And then once you work your way even further down, you end up going to these different trailheads, if you will, or different sections, depending on your fitness level, because they do get a little bit trickier, a little bit more narrow. And then also you can get wet. There's still water that flows down through some of these areas. So you have to kind of pick and choose which trail, if you will, you're going to go through before you pop back out at the very southern part of the city of David, down by this large pool that would be where people would do like communal bathing as they were cleansing themselves to get ready to go up to the temple. So I'll show you that here in a moment. And then we'll reverse course and go back up the other way to go back to the top of the city of David. So I got a few more videos of those tunnels and things like that. So we just wanted to kind of stop here real quick and just take a look at this pretty cool little section here. So we made our way down through the tunnels. Now we popped out and we're going to work our way kind of back up to the north. But beforehand, we're going to make a quick stop here at the Pool of Siloam. There's a couple different ways to pronounce that, but this is a really new active dig site. They've been finding a bunch of things here. You can still see that they're working on it. They've created this little pavilion. What makes this so unique is this is the area, very large communal pool that people that were traveling to the city of David, to the Temple Mount, would have this area where they could start their ritual cleansing. So they would clean themselves through this pool and then work their way up to the temple and do maybe more thorough cleaning as they got closer. But this would be an initial place to kind of rinse off the travel, to be able to meet here. A lot of things were happening here that they're still kind of discovering in the history of it. And then also when you're reading your Bible and you see these Psalms of Ascent, that's really some of the creation of these Psalms are heading up to or ascending to the temple. So a lot of those would have been sung or hymned or hummed, if you will, or would have been recited as they were working their way through the pool up to the Temple Mount, depending on the activity, the celebration, what they were celebrating, why they were coming to Jerusalem. So really, really cool site. And you can see it's an active site that they're still working on. Then up at the very north part of this, as we travel back through the tunnels now heading north, there's another dig site that was under a parking lot that they are actively digging out. So it'll be pretty interesting when I have a chance to go back to revisit these to see what they've set up, because everything that's been well established with museums or lighting and all the other things that they do, it should be really cool to see what they discover and how they turn this into a really cool place to visit. So here it is in this video, and just kind of panning around here as they're actively working on it. And we could listen to the lady there that was presenting, that was part of a different group. And then from here, we're going to kind of go straight where the camera goes into that background there. And that's where we start working our way back up to the top of the mountain. This is where it gets a little bit more narrow, a little bit more physical, because now you're kind of working your way up, and the tunnels are a lot smaller depending on which track that you take. There's a couple different ways to work your way back north. So check out this next slide. So here we are working our way through the tunnel with my traveling companions, and you can see how narrow it gets, and you have to duck under certain things, and the traction gets a little tricky if it's wet, but it wasn't too crazy wet. There's other ways to get around. We kind of decided to take the more adventurous route back to the top, and but it is something that was really cool, well lit, no issues there, but it is definitely a little bit of a climb, a little more strenuous. There's definitely easier ways to go, but we wanted to take on the adventure and just wanted to show you this section of the tunnels as we're working our way back north. And then once we pop out, there's another dig site that they were working on that they're finding all kinds of cool stuff. So check it out on the next slide. And here we made it up to the top, and they have this new active dig site that used to be like a parking lot, and they've been able to uncover it, and they're still actively working on it. What made it really cool is all the things they've already been able to find from all kinds of different eras that go all the way back to the Israelite period, to the Romans, Byzantine, all kinds of stuff they were able to find here that was just buried and covered and used as a parking lot. Because from this vantage point, in fact, I think the camera does move over here to the left. Up above there is back to the road, and then to the left a little further is where we walked in. That's the south part of the Temple Mount. So the Temple Mount, the old city of Jerusalem, is just up and to the left from this camera angle. And then you can see they're actively working on it, kind of digging it out. And it was really, really cool to see what they were doing, kind of actively working on. And I'll be really fascinated to come back and see what they've discovered and what they're able to turn into exhibits, and maybe be able to go down there and walk in some of those little areas. I'm sure that'll be part of their plans with this, because they really, really are working on it. So this is where you come up. So this is where we came up out of the tunnels, is just here. And then you kind of work your way back behind this camera angle. But really cool. I mean, look at this thing. It's like an active dig site, along with just being able to kind of observe it from this deck, this area they built around it, and have this little display of some of what they believe some of those rooms, storehouses, what some of those things might have been. Really will be cool. I will look forward to seeing what they'll turn this into over the coming years. What a lot of walking we did that day. We were all over the place as we're exploring the old city, the city of David, going up and down, walking in those caverns, walking in those tunnels, and we got a lot of walking in. But I hope you enjoyed the video so far. I have a fun little ending here. My wife is a big horse person. She runs a horse facility, and she told me there's no Frisians in Jerusalem. There probably isn't that breed of horse. And as I was walking up, these two cops were on horseback, and I asked them, is it okay to film or take photos? They said it was totally fine. And I asked them what the breed of horse was, and they said Frisians. So I'm like, I gotta get a video of this and send it back to my wife. So that's what you'll see here is kind of a video clip. And then next to that, as they were leaving and walking up the hill, a bunch of kids came up. They actually jumped down and threw one of the girls up on the horse and took photos with her. Such a cool moment of them allowing this girl to jump up onto this horse. And then they rode off and continued their patrol. So I wanted to end the video on this cool little section that where we were kind of walking back and going back to our Airbnb and just trying to recover from such a long day of walking around, that we're able to capture this little moment with the kids and capture these beautiful horses that were just right there in the city of Jerusalem. So check this out.
You got some Frisians, Blueface. Look at the Frisians. Holy cow, look at you. Beautiful. Hello, fella. She says there's no Frisians in Israel. I said, I bet you there's a Frisian in the... Oh, you are beautiful. Keep up the work. Keep up the good work, fellas. Holy cow.
Thanks for watching this video. I really enjoyed putting it together and sharing it with you. And if you've been there, I'd love to hear your stories and some of your experiences. And if you haven't been, I hope this is encouraging to you to try to get there and to see some of these incredible places. Now, I know it's security issues and it's hard to get there. I totally understand, but get it on your list. Try to find a way to get there. It will change your life. I absolutely loved the sights and the people and all the things I was able to experience while I was there. It really did change my life. And I really thank you for allowing me to share this with you and to put the video together and share my experience, and I hope you'll share yours with me as well. So like, comment, subscribe. I got some other videos I'm putting together about this trip, and we'll see you on the next video. God bless.